Hey guys, my name's Matt. I'm the day trader next door. Today we're going to talk about some trading books that I find useful and that aren't so expensive or even free sometimes. I've got the links to all these books down below with the best prices I could find them in Canada and US. Now I have a ton of trading books, like tons, and most of them just collect dust. In fact, they pretty much all collect dust now, but a lot of them I may as well not have read. I'm going to give you here the ones that I'm glad I read and that I went back to over and over, and I'm going to group them into three categories: psychology, technicals, and fun. Starting with probably the most important, psychological. Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. You may well have heard of this book. You might even have this book. You may have no idea. A lot of people really tout this. I've always kind of been a little bit... Having said that, there's a lot of good material in it. The thing I really don't like about it is it's written so wordy that they could probably cut the size of the book in half and it would still get the point across just as well. This is the kind of book that, in my opinion, is best listened to as an ebook as opposed to reading it. This book is also a little bit more expensive than some of the other ones, but you can get it for free for a month if you sign up for a free trial with Audible. Now, I'm not an Audible creator or anything, but this book, along with some of the other ones that are a bit more expensive, if you want to listen to it for a month, you can sign up for a free trial of Audible and then just set a reminder on your calendar for the day or two before it expires. And if you don't want to keep it, just take that reminder and cancel it. This book kind of goes through a lot of what's going on in your head whenever you're scared to get into a trade, when you don't hold on to a winner long enough, when you freeze in a trade that's going the wrong way, and whenever you just can't get up the courage to push the button when you know it's a good setup. Just a lot of ins and outs of trading psychology in here, well worth listening to or reading. I listened to it tons of times. I'm glad I bought it. I only have the audio version, and I'm really glad that I have it. Now, another one in the psychology, you've probably heard of this one. If you haven't, you probably live under a rock, but that's okay. Trading for a Living by Alexander Elder. Now, this is another one that's a little bit more expensive. You can get it for free on an Audible free trial, or if you just buy it as an ebook wherever you have your ebooks, if you're into that, it's going to be much less expensive. This is also a great book to listen to. This book does actually have a trading method in it. It's not one that I would use. I can't tell you if it works or not. My advice would be not to use that method. Don't take this as buying a method. Get the audiobook or just get it and read it for the content. Very interesting stuff. Kind of something that should probably be on every trader's shelf. Now I'm moving on to technical stuff. This is where I really enjoy here. I'm going to give you one that you've probably definitely heard of, and that is the good old Edwards and Magee Technical Analysis of Stock Trends. This book used to be extremely expensive. A lot of places it still is. However, I've found it for $20 on Amazon. For $20, get a copy of this. Now, what's a 70-year-old book have to do with day trading? Well, to be totally honest with you, it's not going to teach you how to day trade at all. This is a kind of book that I look at as an overall broader education on the market and how it works. I've been through this book cover to cover, I don't know how many times. I literally spent about 8 or 10 months just reading it over and over and over. Some of their observations in here, it's amazing, from 1948 or 1950, whatever it is, they still work today. Same behaviors still happen today. It's an extremely interesting read if you're into geeking out on technical stuff. Kind of should be on your shelf if you're an investor, stock trader, futures trader. This one you may not have heard of, and it's not available in audio format, but it's only $10. And I'll tell you, it'd be the best $10 I could spend on a trading book. This book's even older. It was written in 1910, I think. Now, what in the world would a book written in 1910 have to do with day trading in 2020? You may have heard of Wyckoff. There are other books out with his method and that sort of thing that are much more expensive. I don't trade his method, but a lot of principles of his I use in my day-to-day trading. Now, it's called Studies in Tape Reading. Now, of course, back then, they didn't have live charts. Any charts they had were generally hand-drawn, and they had an actual tape that kept printing out prices and kept feeding out the most updated price. And he was a tape reader. I consider myself to be somewhat of a tape reader, in that you look at the price and the change from the last tick and so on, and read that as in the most pure kind of price action you can read is straight from the tape. And I kind of do that in my own trading by looking at my quote board. I'm often staring at my quote board right there. I'll look at just the price change. And a lot of other traders, futures traders particularly, you'll hear them say the same thing. Now, this book has an awful lot of interesting observations in it that you will be so surprised if you read them from the early 1900s. You see the exact same thing still happen in markets today. And that's another reason why price action trading and kind of the method that we're doing it is really timeless. It kind of always has worked, and it always will work as long as there's an auction style market. So for $10, I would grab this one. Be right on the top of my list. Now, another book from way back in the mid 20th century. And the reason they're old, again, is because they work, and the market really still behaves much the same way, on the same principles as it always has. Now, this book will actually give you a trading method that works. Now, you may not want to trade it because it's going to be essentially off a daily chart, but I actually use some of Taylor's techniques to establish a bias long or short on a given day. One caveat to that is it's really not very well written, and it's kind of a tough read. Now, Taylor had a system, kind of an elaborate record-keeping system where he would track price, and his whole idea, they were trading, essentially off. It wasn't really a daily chart unless they drew it every day, but he would establish a bias if he was to buy that day on the open, etc., or if he was to sell his long position or sell short a position. You can trade the Taylor method kind of right from this book today, and it works. It really does. I've tested it and tried it, but it's just not my speed. And it doesn't always translate to a smaller time frame chart. Now, I wouldn't really put this at the top of my list for books to read because it is a tough read. However, I'm showing the books that I found useful and that I find valuable. So I use principles from this book in my trading every day. If you're ever a little bit of a tough read, $20 on Kindle, it's probably about the same on iBooks, probably a little bit more because it's Apple, of course. Well worth picking up to put in your library. Next, we're going to go on to the fun books. You've probably heard of these books, but I really enjoy them. The Market Wizards books, of course. This is the original Market Wizard book. You can get this as an audiobook for free. You can buy a paperback for $20 approximately. This is the first version of it, and this is all interviews with various successful traders. Paul Tudor Jones, for instance, is in this version, the first version. Keeping in mind, this is like from the 80s kind of thing, and this is before the same kind of electronic trading we have today. This is when they were picking up the phone, sell, buy, whatever, and screaming at each other and all that. It's still really interesting. You got to read this or download it or something. Really cool nuggets of information in there, and it's just really interesting. And there's also a new version of it out too, and it's called The New Market Wizards. Again, you can get it for free on Audible also. Paperback, $10. Yeah, we want a copy of this one. This is a newer version. It's got Linda Raschke on it, one of my trading heroes. Now, this isn't like right up to today or anything, but the interviews in here are from like the 90s and later. Both of these books are really cool. Like I say, I call them fun books because they're not going to teach you maybe the same as Edwards and Magee is going to teach you, or Wyckoff's going to teach you, or Taylor's going to teach you. But very interesting, a little bit kind of a fun book to listen to. I have the Market Wizards books both on audiobook only. I have listened to them over and over and over and over again. So in summation, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy all these books right now. In fact, I wouldn't. It's too much. But these are the books of all the tons of books that I've bought. These are the ones that I would have cut to and cut all the other stuff out if I could go back and do it right now. Now, if I had to pick one book, I'll tell you what, I'm going to say two books. I'm going to say, if I had to pick one hard copy book, it would be Studies in Tape Reading by Wyckoff. Get that for $10. It's nothing. It's a couple of coffees. Order it, read it a few times so it actually sinks in. And I would get an Audible trial and listen to Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. It's kind of too expensive to buy the book, in my opinion, for what it is, but you can listen to it for a month for free, and if you decide you don't want to keep Audible, just cancel it. You listen to this book a few times over the month, you'll get everything you need in your head, and you'll get it for free. Beyond that, I do think every trader should have a copy of Edwards and Magee, Technical Analysis of Stock Trends. If you're going to get serious about long-term investing in the market, you're going to build a long-term portfolio of stocks with whatever money you make from your job or from your trading, whatever. You really should read that. And like I say, Taylor's book, well, that's something I use all the time, but I wouldn't get that right away. I'd wait until you're a little bit more familiar with everything to get into that, because that is a deep read. And of course, the Market Wizards books, they're just pure fun. I'd grab an audio copy of both of those and just have it in your phone. You can put it in your ear whenever you're doing something else and listen to it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope this has been useful. Get my cheat sheet and my newsletter for free, daytradernextdoor.com. Rest this week didn't go according to plan. I haven't been trading since Wednesday, but I'm going to be hitting the market on Monday again. We'll see you then.